And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here tonight to cover the Rowdies, and I believe, Carlos, we are going live to do that. So how are you doing on this live Tuesday night show?
We're doing it. We're doing it live. Sometimes I say we're here live, and it's not usually true, but we're doing it tonight because why not? It's Tuesday. We got not much else going on. Plenty of rowdy stuff to talk about. We'll get into that later on. Spent the whole day at the beach, James. It was lovely. Clearwater was electric in the best way possible. The sun was shining. There wasn't a ton of people. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah. So before we do any of that, though, any of the rowdy stuff, there's so much stuff to talk about. I have so many things I want to say about the FC Dallas game. James, how are you? What are you doing over there? Now, usually I say over there in Tampa. Now I'm back in Tampa. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the first few home games I've been at this season. It was that one time, but I'm back in Tampa. I'm so excited. That's lovely. So, James, you're in the same city as me now. How are you doing wherever you are in Tampa, Florida?
Yep, I am doing well, and I am here tonight, like you said, to cover two very important games that the Rowdies had this past weekend. One of them possibly more important than the other, and we'll get to which one might or might not have been once we get to that segment of it. But yeah, it was ups and downs this past week for the Rowdies. Let's say we'll start with that. So to get into those two games, the first was a 2-1 loss at home versus FC Dallas in the U.S. Open Cup round of 16. It was rough. Carlos, you and I were both there for it. And while we didn't shed any tears, I think that it was still an extremely frustrating, extremely emotional type of game for lots of reasons that we're going to get into, including some stats that were related to that one. The second one, though, that was a much better game, a 1-0 home win over Las Vegas. It was much better because it was a win, although still you think 1-0, that's a little bit weird against a team like Las Vegas. So we have some stuff to talk about for that one as well, no doubt. In our prediction standings, only I did not get a point because, as everyone knows, I am very good at making predictions. Thank you, everyone, for saying so all the time. Last week, I hedged my bet.
No one's ever said that, to be clear, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. Exactly. I was trying to hedge my bet last week because I assumed that after the FC Dallas game, the team might be a little bit drained and take the game against Las Vegas not less seriously, but just it would be secondary. And if they get a draw, I would be the only one to say so. Well, it turns out that they did not. They ended up going out and winning the thing. So that puts Eureka and Carlos on 5 points and the guest spot on 4 points. I stay with 2 because I am a very, very smart person. Unfortunately, on the other side of things, we learned last week as well that Forrest Lasso has torn his ACL. That means that he is out for the entirety of this season and more than likely will not be back around sometime until May of 2025, because that's how close we are to 2025 for an ACL tear. Yeah. But that's very big news. We need to talk about that a little bit more, and we will do so as we get farther into the show, obviously. But that is something that we need to start with this week. We also have a preview for our game on Saturday that is away to Sacramento Republic. Do that preview, we have invited on State of the Republic podcast to go over the team. Our interview with them actually ended up going so long that we are doing it as a bonus episode. So please listen to our bonus episode. We are going to do a very shortened version, very smaller version of that tonight. Just go over some very basic things about Sacramento, and then we will turn it over to the actual experts who live and watch out there and really know what's going on. So we thank everyone who joined us from State of the Republic to help us out. Sharon and Luis and Jared, you guys were great. And I hope that I helped on my end as well. But yeah, it was a really good conversation. So please do also listen to our bonus podcast that does the preview work. If you would like to hear what we need to expect when we are playing Sacramento, that has everything on it. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, any major podcast platform, of course, and follow us on social media at RBLR Sports. We are everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Other ones that I didn't even list yet. But Carlos, let's go ahead and get into the quick recap here of the game versus FC Dallas.
Let's do it, James. It was a fun one. and then it wasn't. Jordan Farr was in goal. Munjoma was back in the back line now with Forrest Lasso, knowing he was out. He stepped into that center back role. He's been playing pretty well, actually. Don't think he was expecting to be in that role. I don't think any of us did expect him to be in there either, but he was there and he played it relatively well. Good for him. Jordan Doherty and Guillen made up the other two in that back three. Pacific Nyangabire was the wing back with Bodily on the other side. Hilton and Dennis were in between them. And in the attack, you had Josh Perez, Cal Jennings, and Damian Rivera, who I was excited to see play, by the way, get the start here. He's been in pretty good form. Had a nice goal on the Open Cup against Birmingham. That was a fantastic one. Yeah, Arteaga was out in this one. He was suspended from that first Open Cup game on a really, really silly. We don't exactly know what happened. It was a second yellow of some sorts. I think he mouthed off to the ref. Unfortunate. I think we'll come to talk about this a bit more. He might have been a factor had he been in this game. You can't help but think that if he was there, he might have finished one of the countless opportunities we had.
Yeah.
Dallas. And yeah, Lasso was out injured. Like we said, we came to know that that was an ACL tear, unfortunately. And it seemed like he was really getting into form, like in the back line, of course, but he was getting on the end of headers. He was scoring goals. I think it was terrible. I mean, it's always terrible timing to tear your ACL, obviously. I'm not going to say it was a better time than others, but he was doing really, really well. Highly unfortunate. Yeah, to get into the game a little bit before we jump into it a bit more, the Rowdies created a ton of chances in this one, but it was unfortunately FC Dallas that would go on to win. They went up 2-0 in that first half, and it had to be the Ecuadorian kid, Patrick Delgado, that scored his first goal for Dallas. And of course, it had to be against the Rowdies. It was circling all over Ecuadorian Twitter. Patrick Delgado got his first goal. Losing my mind. Anyway, Farrington, he scored 10 minutes later. Whatever. I mean, it was such a deflating 10 minutes, James. We were doing so well, creating so many chances. Even in those first 5 minutes, Dallas would go on to be up 2-0, and it wouldn't be until the 85th minute that we would get on the score sheet with the Joshua Perez penalty. The Rowdies generated 30 shots in this one, James. 30 shots. It's insane. 10 of those were on target, and we could only score from the penalty. For comparison's sake, by the way, Dallas had 7 shots. Thought Mob, if you
That's
like their stats.
Ridiculous. God.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. The Rowdies the Rowdies are always creating pretty good chances. I've never seen 5 big chances, quote unquote, whatever that means, according to Thought Mob, for one team. It's incredible. We were playing against an MLS side, FC Dallas. Pretty decent side. They weren't doing too hot in MLS, but point stands. We had a fantastic game, and Martin Paez, guy, I swear, I don't know MLS ball like that. So I know there's people in here that might know more about MLS than I do. I've never heard of this man in my life. And he made my hate list in one night. It's incredible. Oh my God, I'm so pissed off. That was the FC Dallas game. We can talk about what we might have missed out on and what could have been if we won that game. But point is, we're out of the Open Cup, and there's stuff to talk about a bit more in this game. But let's jump into the Vegas game, James. Take us through quickly what happened in that game against Las Vegas, because we bounced back. We got the win. We got 3 points in the league. I'm still salty about that FC Dallas game, but we won. Take us through what happened there.
Yes, you are not the only one still salty out there. I can tell you firsthand, but we will go to the game that we did win from this past week, which is at least a bright side in and of it all. First of all, in net, we had Jordan Farr out in the midfield side, or starting with defense. Let's do that first. I was trying to look at it from right to left, but we'll just start with the defense. That was Eddie Munjoma, Jordan Doherty, and Aaron Guillen. Again, it was actually the same as it was from the game versus FC Dallas. So from there, we move into the midfield where I was trying to start us here. And that was Pacific Nyangabire, Danny Crisostomo, Lewis Hilton, and Blake Bodily. And up top, it was Cal Jennings, Manuel Arteaga, and Josh Perez. Josh Perez obviously would frequently drop into the midfield as the number 8 opposite Danny Crisostomo. We have seen this before, folks. Despite having, again, 20 shots on target, well, not on target, I should say, 20 shots, I believe 6 or 7 of those were on target. 2 big chances created as well. We could not score until the last 10 minutes when Cal Jennings finally was able to break the deadlock against none other than former Rowdies goalkeeper Raiko Arozarena. We did talk last week about how Raiko had been starting on and off for Las Vegas. He was back in net for this one, and he actually did pretty well, in my opinion. I think that he and Jordan Farr both had pretty good games. Jordan Farr actually only had to make one what was considered a save, but I think the other two big chances that Las Vegas had, they put right over the bar and then hit the bar. So fair enough. But those are not considered saves or on-target shots, which I don't get personally, but that I'm not the one doing those stats. Yeah. Either way, we did get the 1-0 win. Unfortunate for Rico Arozarena. Very fortunate for us who are fans of the green and gold. Moving into our quick standings update here, Indy 11 keep on winning secretly or low key, however you want to put it. They have been shooting up the Eastern Conference standings and are now in third with a win this past weekend. While Charleston, I believe, lost their first game in the league. I'm not exactly sure, but I believe so. At home versus El Paso. Explain to me that one. I simply do not get it. On the other side of the Eastern Conference table, North Carolina smashed the Miami 4-0. So good for North Carolina. Feel a bit for the players down at the Miami. I don't know how many fans they had out there, but so it goes. Battery are still in first with 27 points. Despite that loss, Lou City have 23 points behind them and have 2 fewer games played. They also sit 3 points ahead of Indy 11. We are in fourth place on 19 points. Rhode Island and Miami are in last place. So it goes. New Mexico took over first out west with a win, while Sacramento, I believe, drew their game. And New Mexico have 22 points from their 10 games. Sac Republic have 21 and are 5 points ahead of third place Memphis. Memphis are in third place in the West Coast. It's topsy-turvy out here, Carlos, and all of our listeners. It's a crazy, weird season already. Tulsa and El Paso, despite their win, are in last place. I believe Tulsa is last, El Paso is last in the whole league. Now, those were our quick recaps. Let's do the actual questions, the actual analysis. We're going to start with where we started already. That is FC Dallas. Carlos, you have opinions. I turn it over to you.
First of all, by the way, El Paso going away to an Eastern Conference powerhouse and getting a crazy result. Does that sound familiar? I still have PTSD from that half field goal, by the way. Indy, what the hell's going on over there? Yeah. Oh my God. Indy is having the craziest run I've seen from a team in a while. And it's Indy. I didn't think they were going to be any good. Sebastian Gonzalez has a role in that, so good for him. I love seeing him do well. I don't feel bad for Miami FC. Like, who is there to feel bad for? Like you said, maybe the players, whatever. Long story short, the Dallas game. Opinions, maybe. Feelings, I think, is the word for it.
Okay.
Because I spent before we talk about the game itself, I spent like several hours after that game just complaining to whoever would listen to me. I complained to my dad. I complained to my friends. Like people who don't care about soccer or USL. I was sending them screenshots of these stats. I was like, look at this. And I was like, guess what team won? And nobody cared, right? But it's like, I just needed to rant for like hours. It was absurd. I don't think I've seen a Rowdies game be that like tipped in our favor and come out with a loss. And it's insane that it happened against an MLS squad. Insane that it happened in the Open Cup. And it was, I'm telling you, so incredibly frustrating that Patrick San Delgado, a kid I love so much, scored his first goal against us in the Open Cup. And it was a banger, by the way. It was an insane goal. I talked to him after the game. I was like, look, I'm Ecuadorian. I'm a huge fan of yours. You could have waited till the next game. And by the way, he scored in the next game as well. He scored in his next game for FC Dallas. Now he's, oh my God, whatever. James, I was really pissed off for a while because I think I was like, oh, we've had too many of these games where like we should have won or we played well, but we didn't get the win. It's going to click eventually, right? Like, I think we've had a few of those games already. I'm kind of tired of saying we played well and we didn't win. Like, it'll come eventually. But I don't know how much better you could have played in this game. Like, this Baez guy, who, by the way, I thought that was a Hispanic last name. Apparently he's Dutch. That's crazy. Baez, like, where the hell did he pull this game out from? It was an incredible performance, unlike anything I've seen in a while, maybe ever, from a goalie. Like, I don't know. And I know, like, you know, the world wasn't watching this game, but this is an incredible 90 minutes from this guy, unlike anything I've seen before, anything I've seen live for sure. It seemed like everything we threw at him was getting saved. Like, any one-on-one chance by the end of the game, my dad and I were watching. I didn't even get up anymore because I knew he was going to save it. I swear, like, I wasn't even getting excited for opportunities. It was an incredible way to deflate our offense. And to their credit, by the way, our attack kept going. It didn't seem like they got discouraged or anything. Pies just kept standing on his head. When we got that penalty, I for sure thought he was going to save it. I thought there was no way he had this incredible game.
I was texting somebody who was at the game as well, and I said the exact same thing. I was like, I can't believe that we had even scored the penalty the way that it was already going.
I was standing with my dad, friend I made at the game, and I'm like I don't know why everybody's cheering. I was so pessimistic. You know me, James. I'm the optimist on this podcast. I think you are, right? I was in such a strange place by the end of the game where I was so pessimistic about everything. Oh, like everybody's getting up on their feet, like it's an incredible one-on-one opportunity. It doesn't matter. Pies going to save it. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you getting excited? Like, I don't know what he had, for lunch or what his pregame meal was, but it was out of this world. Because truly, like our game plan was clicking really well. Like the chances were coming, and I truly, I don't want to blame Arteaga for like a silly second yellow card, but I truly think like his presence there, like I can't help but think one of those opportunities might have gone in because he's like the finisher on this team, right? He's like the clinical finisher. It's like I've been thinking so much about like what could have been. We could be in the last 8 in the Open Cup. That's awesome. That's an awesome opportunity. And it sucks because it's such a silly way to go out because we played so well. And again, I've just been thinking a lot about what Arteaga could have done if he was in that game. One of those 30 shots might have gone in, not the penalty. Like, it's incredible how well we played and managed to lose. I don't really know what else we could have done. Truly, like it was a really, really, really well played game. The chances did not stop coming, by the way. It was like, I thought when Dallas scored that goal, like they were going to take over. Like they would settle in, they had their MLS squad, like they're going to take over, right? Like we kept creating chances the whole game. In that first 5 minutes, we had 2 really great looks that both easily should have gone in against a normal goalie who wasn't playing out of his mind.
I think one of those was the first time that we hit the post that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. Yeah, post, also a little bit of bad luck, right? So I don't know what we did to upset the soccer gods, like maybe I'm Catholic, maybe I should have gone like confession or something and like just been on like a state of grace, right? Going into the game. Like I don't know what else I could have done from my side. I don't know what more the players could have done either, James. It truly was a great performance. And I think I left by the next day, I was feeling like, you know what, if we play like that every USL game, we're going to win the league. We'll talk about the Las Vegas game in a little bit. But positives from that, even without Arteaga, even, Lasso, not being available for the rest of the year. Manjoma stepped up, I think, really well against a good team. The back line had like a single lapse of judgment that led to one of those goals.
Yeah.
Again, like we should have scored like 6 goals though, so we shouldn't even be talking about that back line mistake. It's incredible. I could keep going on about this. I don't have much tactical breakdown here. I'm just saying I think what everybody's thinking. Like Manjoma had a great game. I want to throw that out there because I think I've not given him like some crap. I just haven't really seen what he could produce for the team. I think he stepped in really, really well as a big utility piece, and I think we're going to need him a lot this year. Him and Kleeman are going to get a lot more playing time than I think they bargained for. So, anyway, James, take it away. I'm going to keep ranting if I don't stop. What do you think happened in this game?
Well, yeah. So I had a couple of things to hit off of, and they are kind of extensions of what you've already said, but it goes back to the conversation that we had with Third Degree to preview the FC Dallas game for me. That was very enlightening because we saw FC Dallas play the way that the folks at Third Degree said they would. In fact, Buzz, when he was on here, he was dead right about the way that they were going to play. Most teams, when they step into an Open Cup setting, are going to try as best they can, obviously, to play the way that they have been playing, because if you institute an entirely different game plan just for one game, that kind of throws things off. It's harder to do, especially for most teams. They have already played on Saturday. I think that was also true of Dallas. I think that was true of pretty much everyone who was involved, other than maybe the NYCFC2 team for that round of U.S. Open Cup games. But to introduce a whole new game plan because you're in the Open Cup is it's not always the smartest thing to do. So you try to play the way that you have been. And for the Rowdies, that means playing the way that we usually do, which is creating our number overloads on the right wing and on the left wing, using our 2 number 8s to supplement the wing backs, who then also have a little bit of support from the defenders that are a bit deeper than them on either side. That's what we did. And the only thing that I would quibble with you in terms of the game was you pointed that having Manuel Arteaga out there might have one more of those chances might have gone in. And I agree that having Manuel Arteaga definitely would have helped out there.
Yeah.
The only thing that I want to point out for anybody listening is I did see this a couple of times, and I don't think that they were necessarily in this spirit either, but it was almost like an Arteaga or Jennings. We have usually been playing with both, and I think having both on the field is the key there. Unfortunately, with Arteaga out, that obviously just left the one of them. But if we had Arteaga and Jennings, that would have been better than having Arteaga or Jennings. That was the only thing that I wanted to say, because if you look at the way that it went this next game against Las Vegas, it was Jennings who ultimately got the goal, and they were both out there. So that's the only thing that I wanted to point out. I don't think that you were heading that way, but that just because there were some people I did see kind of around that point on Twitter. So it's unfortunate that he would have been that he was missing, because if he would have been out there, we had both of our really on form strikers.
Yeah.
You can't just focus on one or the other. I don't know that Dallas necessarily did that at times, because we did have Josh Perez, who was dangerous, and he was acting as the opposite number 8 on the left side, like he has been. We had Damian Rivera, just like you had already mentioned. He was doing very well. But they could focus on shutting down Cal Jennings a little bit more, I think, than any other team has, because they did not have to worry about Arteaga on the other side. So definitely it would have made a difference. There's no doubt in my mind. The last thing that I wanted to really hit on for this game specifically were a couple of quotes. So Robbie Nielsen, after the game, we got to talk with him. And then as part of my coverage of the Open Cup game for their actual website, the Open Cups website, I interviewed Nico Estevez, the manager for FC Dallas. And it was kind of funny. I had to get a couple of quotes for the post-game recap. And he said that usually FC Dallas is not as clinical as they were the game against Tampa Bay Rowdies. So it was funny that they, in the first half, had 2 shots on target and both of them went in. I was like, yeah, that's a hell of a joke there, Mr. Estevez. But it was exactly. But that is how soccer goes sometimes. You have a team like this. Like you said, Carlos, the goal for that Patrickson Delgado scored, you really can't argue a ton, even defensively, with the Rowdies side against that goal, because that's incredible placement. Like maybe we should have had another player go out to help with the short corner and shut down Jesus Ferreira a little bit more quickly. That would be the only thing that you could really argue, because Patrickson Delgado's shot went through. I didn't count it, but I think it was 10 players that were both Rowdies and Dallas players, I should say, 10 players that were in front of where he put the ball into the net. So how frequently does a shot like that end up going in from the top of the box? One hit, one time. Okay. You give that up. That's one thing. I get that. The second goal, absolutely. The second goal is one that I will say, I really think not having Forrest Lasso on the field hurt us a little bit there. Forrest Lasso is not only a very good player in terms of his emergency defending, his last ditch one-on-one, he's going to make a slide tackle right before you shoot and get in the way. He does
sometimes it's a penalty.
Sometimes it's a penalty, but he does that all the time. And most of the time he does it well. So I think that he would have put his body in the way of that one way or another. It was a very bad goal for us to give up, because Logan Farrington, the player for FC Dallas, he's in his rookie season, he's a very good player, certainly, but he's just out of college. It's not somebody who's this brilliant top of their game player. And he was able to effectively waltz into the top of our box and get a shot off. I don't think it was even on his right foot. I believe he is right-footed, so it was on his left foot. And that means that if he was allowed to have the time and space to set himself to get a shot off on his weaker foot, that's unacceptable. That is where I will say that the defense was slow to react. Other than that, I really think the absolute vast majority of this game, it was really just those 2 goals within 10 minutes of each other where the Rowdies lost a little bit of momentum, a little bit of pep in their step. That was the case for the fans. USL Championship website commentator Nick Murray, he was actually at the post-game press conference as well. He asked Robbie Nielsen to reconcile, I think was the word he used, reconcile the performance that we had with the result that we ultimately got. And he said, you just have to focus on the performance because it was incredible the way that it was, but the result is just, it stings. And the other thing that Mr. Murray said was that the goal that Patrickson Delgado scored really took the wind out of our sails because it was so against the run of play. We had all of these chances. And I was sitting with our producer, Eureka, before they scored, and I told him, we have all these chances. At some point, we have to score one of these or it's going to be a problem. It's one of those things where if you don't score, it comes back to bite you. And that's exactly what happened. So it's if you have a chance against a top team or at least a team in the top division like FC Dallas, you have got to take it. And unfortunately, when you're not clinical, the other team is going to be clinical.
And they don't even have to be clinical, by the way. I mean, these were silly chances. Like, they weren't. That's the part that frustrates me. It's not like we gave up anything crazy. Backline played fine. Like, they played decent. Manjoma has been looking good back there. He seems like he's getting comfortable. The Las Vegas game, we can talk about in a minute here. But like you said, like, I don't think I've ever complained about Doherty. Doherty's always been such a great player. But like you said, like, we just kind of fell asleep after that first goal. There was a bit of a lull. I think collectively, some energy left the team, the stands. And Doherty was uncharacteristically slow to react to Farrington. Like, Farrington didn't do anything. Man.
No.
Like you said, waltz is a great word for it. He waltzed into it. I mean, he could have looked up at the camera guy behind the goal and said, cheese, taking a photo back there. Like, he had so much time to just chill, do whatever he wants. He stepped up and scored a really easy goal.
The guy who got the assist even was very slow about it.
It was all just so melancholic. That's a good word. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll use that word. Even in Jordan Farr, like, he couldn't do a ton. It was one-on-one. No, it wasn't one-on-one. Like, he could have been a bit quicker, honestly. Like, it was so slow. The whole thing was so frustrating. Point being, Rowdies, great performance. One lapse of judgment. Plenty of offensive opportunities. But against a team like Dallas, in a situation like this, it's the Open Cup. You're playing against a team that on roster, the roster is supposed to be better than you. It's a team that's in MLS are supposed to be better than you. You have to take your chances. And this is incredibly uncommon that, this lower league team, right? The Tampa Bay Rowdies is entirely outperforming this team, entirely out-creating this team, and it's not even close. These stats are indicative of like a 5-0, 6-0 win.
Yep.
And we scored one goal and it was a penalty.
Yep.
Again, Arteaga, I truly think Arteaga and Jennings being out there, like you said, I think it's a good caveat. Like, them either or. Like, when they're both out there together, one of them gets on the score sheet. And yeah, Damon Rivera is a fantastic player. It's not the same dynamic. It's a totally different dynamic. So it's unfortunate. I don't know what else we could have done except not get a second yellow for Arteaga in overtime. During that first Open Cup game, which we spent plenty of time talking about because that was crazy for its own reasons. I don't know what else to say about this game, James. There's just so many opportunities. Usually when we talk about a game, we recap it. I like to go through and like talk about some of our better chances. Some great link up play between some players. Here's a good moment where Dennis is kind of finding his form coming back from injury. Like, there's so many opportunities. If we went through some of like the big ones, quote unquote, we would be here for an hour because there's so much to talk about in terms of like what our offense did.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Martin Paez, I was looking up the highlights again just to go back. This guy has his own YouTube channel and has like a 4-minute compilation of his saves in this game on his own YouTube channel because he said that he was that proud of it, right? I don't know what else to say here, James. Like, I like to go back, like I said, look at some of the big moments and just mention them here, but Jennings had a bunch of moments that, against a normal keeper might have gone in. Lots of shots that went just wide. We had those couple shots. I think we hit the post 3 times in this game officially. Is that the number? Let me fact check myself.
Yes, 3 times.
Yeah. What else can you do? Like, truly, what else? I'd said those exact words to my dad so many times by like the 70th minute. Like, I'm a guy that likes to stand up the whole game. I'm usually like right with Ralph's mob, trying to keep the energy up and whatever. I was so deflated because it seemed like the guys truly, like they didn't look deflated, like except for like that maybe 10-minute stretch. It looked like everybody on this team truly thought they could come back and do it and win it. And against a normal keeper, again, I think they could have. I don't know what else we could have done in this game. It was a fantastic performance, and I saw a lot of positivity on Rowdy's Twitter after it, to be honest, because I think everybody kind of understood this to be just a crazy, crazy anomaly of a performance from Pies, a crazy game, great performance from us. I think everybody's feeling pretty good about the game. It's just the collective feeling is like, what could have been, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The whole big thing is what could have been, because the round of 8, the quarterfinals, that's right there. But yeah,
Right.
it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's because sorry, James. Like, just last thing, like we talked a lot about the Open Cup with like the MLS news, and the teams pulling out and whatever. For better or worse, like objectively, that makes the path to the final much easier and direct for a USL team,
Exactly.
right? You only have to beat a couple, MLS sides, and you're in the semifinals, right? Like it's incredible, like what could have happened here. And I don't think we have an opportunity this clear to go on and win the Open Cup for a long, long time. So I'm not saying it won't happen, that we can that we can't make a run deep all the way to the final, even win it. Who knows one day? I just think like this is the easiest path we were going to have in a while. The easiest, I put easiest in quotes. We're still going to play good teams or whatever. Would have played good teams. Dallas is a decent team. They're not that great. It's a super winnable game. I said that, the weeks leading up to it when we knew who we could be playing. And I think that proved to be true, by the way. It was a very winnable game. But yeah, I mean, going forward, who knows how this Open Cup stuff is going to resolve itself. If it resolves itself, who knows if we're playing this tournament next year? It's really, nobody really knows. But as far as recent memory goes, this is the easiest, quote unquote, easiest path to a final we would have had. So it's really sad, because it's just like, man, like you said, like I've been saying, like, who knows what could have been. But I digress. We can talk about, what could have happened for plenty of situations. So that being said, plenty of positives to take away from this game. I think we're going to miss Forrest Lasso for the rest of the season, but I don't think it's going to be a dramatic hole. I don't think it'll change the, backline performance too much. I think this shows us how much that Arteaga, Jennings, duo up top truly can affect the game. I think it shows us that this team is truly clicking. And, maybe not so much in that Vegas game. Maybe there's a bit of a lull. Maybe there's a bit of a trap game. But there's a lot of positives to take away from this. And I know it's frustrating to say, oh, we played well, but we didn't win. Trust the process, it'll come. Like, I know, because like I feel frustrated saying that, but this is such an anomaly of a game. Like, it truly feels like we can go on one of those Indy 11 type unbeaten runs if we play like this. I don't doubt it. It's truly a possibility, and we can make up plenty of that ground that we have between us and that first place spot on the Eastern Conference.
Carlos, that is a great way to lead into the next question here, because we obviously do need to get to the Las Vegas game at some point. Now, I was not able to get to that game. I was at a wedding. So congratulations to the people whose wedding I attended. Don't know if they will be listening, but Carlos, I am relying on you to provide the main takeaways for the game versus Las Vegas. I have the highlights and I have the stats and I have all of that kind of stuff. But I was not there, as I said. So from your opinion, how did this one go? I know that we had 20 shots, which for anyone keeping track, that is 3 games with 70 shots, actually 71 shots for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Just keep that in mind. Those are hockey numbers. That's a ridiculously high number. But yeah, 71 shots for 3 games, 20 in the one specifically against Las Vegas.
Yeah.
What happened in this one?
Well, first of all, let me say this was a game. I think Mike Pendleton pointed this out on Twitter. It didn't really click to me, but it was what's the saying? A who's who? Is that what people say of relatively big names at this game? It was fun. Like, it was a lot of people that you might have not expected, but maybe you would have expected. I don't know. Neil Collins was there. That was fun. Said hi to him after the game. He was sitting in the stands behind the Vegas bench. I can only imagine. I was asking him, just jokingly, how weird that must have been to not be coaching, being in the stadium, and instead just kind of, seeing how the game goes, watching it casually. I hope he finds, a new opportunity sooner rather than later, because he deserves it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Not within this league.
Yeah, I mean, he not within this league, but I would not be surprised if he's taking, job interviews while he's on this side of the pond. Um, that being said, plenty of other people there. Randy Rosarena, a bunch of the Rays players were there. The Las Vegas principal owner, say Batista, is that his name? I don't know much about baseball. I know his last name's Batista. He was there. A bunch of fun people there. It was cool. Pictures were being taken all around the stadium, and it was a great crowd. Great crowd. Let me give you some numbers. Like you said, it was 20 shots total, 2 big chances, which we missed both of them. 6 shots on target. Vegas had 0 shots on target the whole game. This was a game where we had, one of those games where you have a ton of possession, but it's not really clicking for whatever reason. The
And that
numbers
could be
might,
down to emotional
yeah,
impact after the Dallas game. We have to remember how hard it was for us to get up after the Birmingham Legion
my
Open
God.
Cup game. That was difficult. So imagine this one where we didn't even actually get the result in the end.
Yeah, that game was wild. I can't imagine like the, toll might take on the players. Honestly, it seems like they were in pretty good, the vibes were pretty good based on what I saw after the game on Wednesday. So I didn't expect there to be too much of, some sort of emotional drop off or anything going into this Vegas game. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty sleepy game for a long time. We had the 2 big opportunities, and I think the numbers lie a little bit. 20 shots, but it's really not a ton of crazy opportunities in those 20 shots. We did hit the post one time. That was fun, whatever. But like again, there wasn't a ton going on here for us. It was just kind of peppering the goal. Rosarena made a few saves, and it wasn't until like the team was clicking pretty well. Lewis Hilton peppered a shot or 2, but it felt like everybody, like despite having 20 shots, I know I'm going to say something that's going to sound crazy. Having 20 shots in a game, it felt like there was 2 like players were scared to rip a shot when we had an open lane. Everybody was kind of looking to make that last pass, which is understandable. And I know it sounds crazy having 20 shots, but they weren't these weren't quality shots. We were peppering the ball like just right at Ryko. He was having pretty easy game, not a ton going on there.
It looked like that from the highlights for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, Blake Bodily was the one that got that shot on the post. Took a weird deflection and bounced in the near post behind Rosarena, like right across the goal line and to the other side of the field. So that absolutely should have been a goal. That was probably our best big chance or whatever of that game. I don't really know what Fought Mob would point to as our other big chance. But like again, the other opportunities were pretty light, let's say. Like we were in the box, we were peppering the goal, shots were going over to the left side, around, like everywhere but the goal itself. When they did get to the goal, they were easy saves for Ryko. I'm not easy, from the stands. I'm sure they're much harder to do when you're on the field. So I'll caveat it, I'll make that caveat with that point. That's all to say that despite like all that possession, all the opportunities, all the passes we made, it was a moment of brilliance once again from Cal Jennings. It was truly like an individual moment of Cal Jennings play that led us to our win. Without that dribble, without that crazy run that he has, and without that, very like characteristic of Cal Jennings, just taking on players, cutting in and just ripping a shot, low near post. We're not winning that game. It would be 0-0 and we'd walk away all pissed off because we lost to FC Dallas and we tied, freaking Las Vegas. Terrible team. So make of that what you will. I've been trying to make of that what I will, and I don't really know what I'm making of it, to be honest. It felt like a trap game, and I think we played it very much like a trap game. Yeah. Las Vegas played their game pretty well, to their credit. I was never really scared of them like scoring. They did hit. I think they hit the post, right? Did we mention that?
Yes,
like they had that one shot that hit the post. That was pretty much it. They have some names that might strike some fear into the heart of USL fans. You have Solomon Asante playing for them. I totally forgot that until he came onto the field like in the 5th minute after an early injury. But we did fine. The back line did fine. I think, again, I'm going to shout out Manjoma again because this is not what he expected to be playing, I'm sure. I think he had a decent game. Doherty had a game where we're not talking about his mistake. That's always what you want to see from a back line, right? Guillen had a fine game. The midfield was, whatever, like making a lot of short passes that don't really affect the game too much. Cal Jennings had to make an individual moment of brilliance to win us this game. I think it's a little scary just because this is Las Vegas and we should be kind of blowing them out. But like these games happen. where you play a lower, lower quote unquote, a team that you think you should beat by a lot. It's a trap game, right? There's never been a season where we just win all of these games easily against these bad teams. But we did win. And I think that's important, right? I mean, take a look at the El Paso game, right? We played well, created a ton of chances. I think we created way more quality chances in that El Paso game than we did against Las Vegas.
Yep.
And we tied 1-1 against the worst team in the league. In this game, less quality chances. I think probably about the same number of shots. But it was a quality moment of individual brilliance from Cal Jennings that brought the 3 points, or at least kept the 3 points home.
Yeah.
Make of that what you will. I'm not like, walking away like, yeah, like let's go. Like, what an awesome game. We played so much better than that FC Dallas game. The FC Dallas game was an inspired performance. This Las Vegas game was not, but we won. And that's what you want to do against, any team, but especially against these like easy win, quote unquote teams. Like these are points that you and I mentioned this a lot, that at the end of the year, you're going to look back at some of the games and be like, what games could we absolutely have gone back and won? Right? We talk about that a lot. El Paso is one that's always going to come up this year. Always, no matter what happens, no matter where we are in the table, unless we finish in first place. We're going to be mentioning that El Paso game for a while, right? What else? That Pittsburgh game in Pittsburgh, when Pittsburgh was in terrible form. They could not find out who they were, right? That North Carolina FC game too, that CFC game. Like these are games early on in the year.
Yep.
Where we could look back and be like,
those were the big three.
Yeah. This game could have been in that category, and it wasn't. It's a low bar. It might sound like a low bar, but I don't think it is. Like these are tough games to kind of scrap out points from. Cal Jennings, shout out to you. That's an incredible goal. Raiko Arozarena got totally beat in that near post.
He had everyone going the wrong way.
Yeah. And honestly, this might be controversial to say, I don't think Martin Pies is making that save either. Even on that night, it was just that's about as perfect a finish as you can get. So that's the Carlos Ortega recap of the game. In short, bunch of other little opportunities, silly little shots, shots that go just right at the goal, right at Raiko. Nate Worth came in the game. That was fun. Christian Ortiz came in the game. I'm pretty sure in this game, right?
Well, he did against Dallas. I know that for sure.
Point being, we have 17-year-olds playing real minutes, real important minutes. I think that's really cool.
2 of them.
Yeah. Christian Ortiz did not come in this game. Nate Worth was ineligible against Dallas, by the way, because he already played an Open Cup game for Tulsa. Fun fact.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it's crazy. Whatever. I think it's fun to point out we have 17-year-olds on a full professional contract playing real important minutes for this team. Nate Worth had a decent game. I think he's still kind of finding his shoe or finding his legs with us. Totally understandable. As a kid in a new environment, high expectations for him. So totally understandable. I'm never going to give these 17-year-old kids much flack for anything, really. Yeah. It's incredible. It's truly incredible. They full professional players playing important minutes for us. And it's a new era for the Rowdies. I think it's kind of interesting having Neil Collins there. Neil Collins is a fantastic coach. I'm so upset that he went to Barnsley and then they sacked him before the year even ended, because we could have just stuck with him and won a title eventually, I'm sure. But it's a new era for the Rowdies. I don't think Neil Collins is bringing in, Christian Ortiz and Nate Worth and having them play like serious minutes like this. It's just kind of
something to think about.
I think it's slightly different philosophies. It's not better or worse. It's just the reality of what it is. Nice little contrast there. Visually, I think having Neil Collins in the stands and the kid Nate Worth on the field. Fun stuff. Good game. Great crowd, by the way. Great crowd against Vegas on a Saturday night. Love to see it against a bad opponent. Fireworks probably helped. So good job to the Rowdies ticket office, I guess, on Unspoken Heroes. Overall, can't really complain too much. You could, but I won't. So
there we go. I like that. That's a good way to round out that segment. But Carlos, we do have one more thing for our questions and analysis segment, and that is our man of the match, and that would be for each game here. So, who was your men of the matches for last week?
Men of the matches. Is that right?
It is not right. It is not right.
Men of the match. I don't know. Whatever. I'm gonna say Blake Bodily was my man of the match for that game against FC Dallas. Think he had a good game, like everybody. My instinct is always to pick the goal scorer, Joshua Perez, slotted away that penalty. I think he had an okay game, nothing crazy. But I mean, yeah, Blake Bodily had a fantastic game. It seemed like he was whipping in infinite opportunities because we had so much of the ball and he was making quality passes, creating tons of opportunities on the wing. I think he was totally beating his guy on that side. Yeah, it was a Blake Bodily showcase, as it was for the rest of the team, truly. So I'm happy with that. Blake Bodily, shout out to you. James, do you want to give us your man of the match for the FC Dallas game?
Yeah, for me, that is Lewis Hilton. He was not only very good on the defensive side, in my opinion, for most of the game. There were a lot of periods where FC Dallas couldn't create anything. Obviously, we know when they did, but there were, like I said, very long stretches where we didn't see FC Dallas getting through and getting stuffed and stuck in their own end very frequently. Lewis Hilton is one of the big reasons for that. But on the other side of things, I think that this was the game where I noticed Lewis Hilton the most because he would receive the ball from one side, he would turn to the other side and find the player on the opposite wing in a good bit of space, or somebody a little bit higher up who then could find that player into space. I think that this was the time that I saw Lewis Hilton doing that most frequently, specifically versus FC Dallas. When we have Lewis Hilton, he's one of those players that it's a Sergio Busquets quote where if you watch the game, you don't see him, but if you see him, you watch the game. Or if you watch the game, you don't see him. If you watch him, then you see the game. I got it.
You got it.
But yeah, Lewis Hilton had one of those games, and I did watch him a good portion of the Dallas game. He was fantastic. So that was why he was my man of the match. Now let's go to the Las Vegas game, and I will turn it back to you, Carlos, and ask you who was your man of the match for that one.
Here, I will follow my instincts, and I will take the goal scorer, Kyle Jennings, because again, we had a decent game. We had so much of the ball. Midfield played fine, but it truly took an individual moment of inspired brilliance that Kyle Jennings usually likes to bring to most games he plays. And this game was no different. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful run. Beautiful shot into the bottom left corner. Ryko had no chance of saving that. Again, Martin Pye on his wonderful, wonderful miracle night on that fateful Wednesday night last week was not saving that. So Kyle Jennings, beautiful goal, and he can't not be my man of the match for that. He was also on the team of the week, by the way, in the USL. So shout out to him.
Yep, that is true. And for my man of the match on the Las Vegas game, like I said, I was mostly relying on highlights and stats. So we're going to go with stats here. And for that, it means Aaron Guillen is my man of the match. Accurate passes, 93%. Passes into the final third, 9. 4 out of 4 accurate long balls. That's all just on the attacking side. Let's move on to the defensive side for a second, where he had 2 blocks, 3 clearances, 3 recoveries, ground duels, 75% won, aerial duels, 100%. That is racking up the stats, folks. Aaron Guillen had a fantastic game in a shutout win. So I'm giving it to Aaron Guillen for my man of the match. Now, before we move on from these 2 games, we do have a little bit more to get through. Like I said, the Sacramento preview is going to be in a bonus episode because that was long and we have already run a bit long doing these 2. We already knew we were going to do that because these were very important games. But we also want to tell you, make sure you get to Berry House off the Ybor Strip on June 29th. That is a Saturday at 7 p.m. for our next watch party there. We will be watching the Rowdies game versus Loudoun United. This is breaking news for our next watch party. Breaking news, folks. Make sure you show up at Berry House, again, off the Ybor Strip, so that we can watch the Rowdies play against Loudoun United. There will be pitcher specials, as there always are. Who doesn't want pitcher specials? There will be a halftime swag giveaway from RBLR Sports, and frequently the Tampa Bay Rowdies organization itself chips in. Just keep that in mind. There are a lot of perks to attending these, not one of which is, or one of which is also just being around other Rowdies fans and making friends. We just had a bunch of new people from the last game, our last watch party that we had there. The game wasn't so great, but that's okay. We still made friends there. Please show up and join us again for the next Rowdies watch party. Again, that is Saturday, June 29th. Breaking news. We will see you there. Now, let's get into the preview. It's going to be a quick one because, as I said, we had State of the Republic podcast on to help us out. Thank you guys so much. Again, Sharon,
Sick
Luis,
podcast name.
Jared. Yes, it is. It is actually pretty cool. But they helped us out with our preview, and that one went already as long as we have gone doing our reviews for the last 2 games. So we will include that as a bonus episode in the RBLR Sports feed. Check it out there and learn what to expect when we play Sacramento. We will play them on Saturday at 10 p.m. They told me personally, it is worth it to stay up late. So please, folks, do that and tune in. The last time that we met Sacramento, the first and only time, was June 3rd last year. It was a 1-1 home draw. So fair enough. Good result there. Their form recently has been a little mixed, but it's been a little odd too. A draw versus Phoenix Rising, a win over Monterey Bay, a draw again versus Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a very weird team to play recently. Then they went into the Open Cup. When we played FC Dallas, they played San Jose Earthquakes, possibly the only better team in MLS to play than FC Dallas that I think was still left. They ended up beating them after extra time 4-3. It was a rough game. It was like emotionally, I mean, it was up and down and back and forth, and I cannot believe that Sacramento ultimately pulled it out, but good for them. I hope that they go on carrying the USL banner just as they did a couple of years ago and maybe go one further and get that trophy. So afterwards, all the taxing, all the sweat, blood, and tears in that game versus San Jose, they went and they drew 0-0 versus Birmingham Legion. I really don't think that you can fault them for that afterwards. Their last starting 11 was Danny Vitiello in goal. He is extremely good, very, very good goalkeeper. Damia Villader at left back, Lee Desmond in the center, along with Jared Timmer and Shane Wheat. I have been told that Jared Timmer stepped in for Connor Donovan. I believe that he was having a concussion injury and symptoms from that, so I don't know if he will be back specifically this weekend or not. And at right back is Jack Gurr. In the midfield, they had Rafa Hauregi, who is one of their youth products, Nick Ross, who is from Scotland, shout out there, and they had Luis Felipe Fernandez, a former U.S. youth national team player, so another interesting player. Up top, they had Trevor Amon, the USL League One Golden Boot winner from last year. So with Northern Colorado Hailstorm, he scored the most goals in that league in 2023. Very interesting for him to step up, and I believe he has 6 goals already this season.
What a guy.
Pretty good player. On the other player they had up top was Kieran Phillips, who is on loan from a sister club from Sacramento that is Huddersfield Town over in England. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the team right now. Another thing to note is Roro Lopez, very famous player in USL Championship circles. Yeah. Just like Forrest Lasso, has done his ACL. He is out for the season. I believe he did that actually in the same week that Forrest Lasso did. So it's unfortunate for both us and them that these players are having these injuries. As I said to the people from State of the Republic podcast, we have got to get teams and teams of people working on ACLs and making them stronger, because this is absolutely nuts. And it really sucks for all of us who are soccer fans. But that is the short preview of the game versus Sacramento Republic. If you would like the actual one that has some tactical nous to it, please listen to our bonus episode with State of the Republic. They were awesome, and they helped us out a lot. Now, let us get into the next thing we do with our previews, predictions. Carlos, I'm turning it over to you. How is this game going to go?
I love the Sacramento team. They're likable. They're fun. They rep the USL well in the Open Cup. You know, like, there's a lot of great stuff happening. By the way, when the hell did they partner up with Huddersfield? That's random as hell.
I believe it's their ownership group, but
really?
Yeah.
Also, what happened to our thing with like Norwich? Is that still a thing? Anyway, whatever.
I'm almost certain that one is not.
What the hell happened there? Anyway, it's like, at least that one lasted longer, by the way. Then I don't know if anybody remembers this. Remember when we partnered with like Sao Paulo for like a day? Never heard about it after that. That was fun.
Yeah.
They're undefeated. We forgot to mention that. I'm sure we're going to talk about that more.
I did forget that.
This is the only undefeated team left, which is crazy with how many games we've played. You know, we're what? They've played where are they? They played 11 games, won 5 games, draw 6 times. So weirdly enough, they've tied more than they've won. They're in second place in the Western Conference. They haven't lost a game. It was a really difficult team to play against. It's really difficult to go over there to Sacramento and beat them over there at their spot. But I don't care, James. We're going to win 2-0. Yeah, I feel it. We're going to give them their first loss.
All right.
We're hot. No, we're not. But like, I feel like, I don't know. It's a vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a kind of feeling you get, right? I'm always the optimist. I feel like if I was in my normal optimist mode, I'm going with a 1-1 draw, but I'm not. I feel good about this game. I don't know what it is. Like, just give me the win. Like, they have to lose eventually. They can't win every single game or draw
That's
every single
true.
game for the rest of their life.
They're not Bayer Leverkusen.
And they're not. And even Bayer Leverkusen lost eventually, right? So I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to say we're going to win. You know what? I'm going to give you the exact goal scorers too. I think Arteaga is going to score a header in the 57th minute.
Ooh.
And then it's going to be Jordan Doherty. Jordan Doherty gets a goal off of a corner kick. He's going to go up and get a header as well. And everybody's going to sleep on him because we're going to be like,
Carlos,
oh my
you're putting
God.
a lot on the line with this.
Yeah, we're saying Forrest Lasso's out. We have no one to win headers. Psych. We got Jordan Doherty. We forgot he's the greatest player of all time. And he's going to get a header in the 80th minute. So it's going to be 2 header goals. Arteaga, Doherty, both in the second half. We're going to win 2-0. And we're going to give Sacramento Republic their first loss of the year. I don't care. Put my life savings on this. We're going to go and do it. All right, James?
Eureka, make sure you're writing that down. He's putting his life savings on it. So we are getting whatever he's worth out of this game one way or another.
Which is not much. I'm unemployed. If anybody is looking for some sort of paralegal work or something, I'm here. I need a job for a couple years. Hit me up.
Also, if anyone's trying to sell an old Toyota or Honda, I would like to buy that because my car sucks. But we're moving on from our personal pleas, and we're going to finish the previews here. Eureka has his own prediction that is a 1-1 draw. And again, I am going to hedge my bet, even though it has not served me well once this whole year. And I'm going to say we lose this game 1-0 to Sacramento. Now, let's move into our final segment.
Wait, hold on. Before we do that, you saying we're going to lose, with all due respect, James, makes me feel good.
Oh, you're right. There we go.
Historically, and this isn't to put you down, but historically this year,
it can be to put me down.
All right, no. You're struggling this year, and that means that we're not going to lose. So worst case scenario, we draw, but I have a feeling we're going to win. So put that out there.
All right, perfect. Well, that's a good way to look at it too. But now in the extra time segment, Carlos, I will turn it over to you to go through multiple player of the week, well, team of the week and a player of the week. But it's also kind of a bummer.
Yeah, player who is not playing another game for the rest of this year was the USL Player of the Week last week for that performance against Tulsa. Really great game for us, Lasso. I'm glad you went out with a bang. I'm sad you're out, but I'm glad if you did go out, it was with a performance like that.
Yeah.
Manu, Cal Jennings, Charlie Dennis, Robbie Nielsen were all in the team of the week. That's awesome. Charlie is kind of getting his form back. That's rad. Are you kidding me? He's been out for a lot of this year, but he's back. He looks good. Him and Chrysostoma are going to have a battle for that other center midfield spot. And by the way, we have USL, promising talent Nate Worth behind them. So we're stacked in the midfield. I'll tell you that much. So congrats to all of them for the USL team of the week. That's fun. And Cal Jennings was on the USL team of the week for this week's performance against Las Vegas Lights. James, fill us in on what happened in El Paso.
Yeah, so as everybody knows, despite our game, El Paso is not doing so well in the 2024 season. They went ahead and fired their head coach, their assistant coach, and their technical director, and they have replaced all of those guys, or at least one of those guys. They have replaced their head coach with Wilmer Cabrera. Wilmer Cabrera is another name that people familiar with the USL Championship should already know. He has been all over this league, and he has coached in MLS. He has coached with the U.S. national team, I believe the U.S. youth national teams. He's a very famous name in U.S. soccer, and he will now be taking charge of El Paso, and we'll see exactly how that works out for him. But in his first game, they went to Charleston and beat them. And I will say that was after an incredibly heartbreaking, emotionally taxing penalty loss for Charleston to Atlanta United in the Open Cup. So that probably did play a role. God, did that suck on Tuesday, but that's neither here nor there for us as Rowdies fans. And congratulations for Wilmer Cabrera on getting that win.
Yay.
Carlos, you have another note to add here.
Yeah, I'm just throwing this in right now because I was watching this right before I jumped onto this podcast. There's two teams that are tied for biggest clubs in the world. It's Tampa Bay Rowdies. And on the other side, you have Liga Deportiva Universitaria de Quito. Liga de Quito won their Libertadores game today against Universitario 2-0. we're live. I'm taking advantage to say that live because it actually happened today, and I can say it happened today right before this podcast. I love being live. This is sick. We should do this more often.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. That is your call to action. Tune into us when we're live because we will be doing that more often. And if you want to know when we're going live, you can follow us at RBLR Sports, and you can do so on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere you are.
Threads.
I am mostly on Twitter at RBLR James K. What about you, Carlos?
At Carlos CPA 10 on Twitter. What am I tweeting? I tweeted about the Liga game today. Rowdies are always on my timeline. By the way, shout out Rowdies. Rowdies' own Nico Castillo had an article written about him in Diario Ole, one of the newspapers from down in Argentina. They were highlighting him. The headline is Tembe Rowdies, historic club in Florida, are being headed by Argentinian mind, Nico Castillo. So shout out to him. He had an article written about him. Some words from him and the Tembe Rowdies in there in the Argentinian outlet, Diario Ole. Also, taking advantage while we're here, shout out to everybody listening live. This is so much fun. It's so cool. Like, it's great to know people are like out there listening as I'm speaking the words coming out of my mouth right now. Shout out Faith. She's an FC Cincinnati fan, but she's slowly turning to the green and gold gospel as well.
Naturally.
So thank you for tuning in as well. James, to close us out here, it's an hour and 3 minutes. I can't believe we've been talking this long about 2 games, and we didn't even really dive into that Sacramento game that much.
No, you're right. But again, if you want to, we have a bonus pod. No, I
like it.
And you can tune into that one. That will be on the feed. I believe State of the Republic will also be sharing it because they do a preview as well. And I was helping them out on that side. So please do tune in, whether you listen to us or them. You will find it there. You can like and subscribe to our podcast, and you can get that bonus pod. You can do that and get the full experience here on YouTube if you'd like. Subscribe there as well. Also, we are on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. Again, anywhere you are, that's where we are too. For our first live episode, for another bonus pod, you can get all of that.
Bonus pod.
RBLR Sparks. We're starting to fall off the rails, Carlos.
It's
Come
late.
on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.